Harris campaign. Kurt Bardella, USA Today contributor and former spokesperson for the House Oversight Committee, and Elise Jordan, former aide in the George W. Bush White House and MSNBC political analyst. Friends, all of you, thank you for joining me. Elise, there have been growing calls for Matt Gaetz to resign. Radio silence for Republicans on this. Why is that? Because word is he's like the most popular guy among the GOP ranks.
Republicans just don't seem right to work it right now to go out on a limb and even stake out a claim for Matt Gaetz one way or the other. They're hoping that this is just going to blow over like so many other scandals have not picked up that much traction. You look at what's happening right now with Governor Andrew Cuomo in New York, for example, and how he seems to, for right now, be surviving that. They're banking that there's so many scandals that if the politician just digs in, that they can survive. But this is only going to get worse and worse. It involves underage women. It involves the use of minors and a very unsavory character who is one of Matt Gaetz's best friends and what he's being charged with in Florida. And I do not see how this becomes avoidable with Matt Gaetz loving the public microphone the way it does too.
I'm curious, Adrian, your thoughts on what action should be taken right now to try to handle this situation. Do Republicans have anything to gain by standing by him right now, even if only with the...
I'm dying.
Yeah, they got now. I completely agree with my friend Louise. I mean, this is a really bad situation.
You can go, Daddy was not for that. That's out, bro. Don't pay women on Cash App. What's wrong with you, bro?
Suspend him in a number of ways right now from some of his congressional duties. But look, the bottom line is when you are a sitting member of Congress and you are under investigation by the Department of Justice, that is never a good situation to be in. And also involving young underage girls, it's just extremely not only grotesque but also very politically problematic for Matt Gaetz.
Yeah, we should say it's allegedly involved with one 17-year-old girl, not a woman technically yet, right? So 18, we can change the vernacular of that. But let me talk about the Daily Beast report with you, Kurt. Donald Trump is not jumping to Gaetz's defense, and so far we haven't heard anything from him on the issue. In fact, what do you make of that? Because we know Gaetz to be one of Trump's staunchest allies. These two were thick as thieves for a while, right? Would having Trump come to his defense help him, or would it just hurt his case?
Well, I think that when you have someone like Donald Trump who has a long storied history of being accused of sexual harassment and misconduct when it comes to women, I'm not sure having that guy be your cloak and defender is really going to do a lot for you. I mean, the reality about the Republican Party right now, and this is really the lack of reaction that we're seeing from Republicans, it does tell you where the party is at this moment in time. This is a party that decided that someone like Roy Moore should still be their Senate nominee in Alabama a few years ago, even though he was accused of preying on underage girls at the local mall. We have people like Trump's right-hand man, Jason Miller, who has had a storied history with prostitution and massage parlors and problems with alimony. I mean, we have Jim Jordan, the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, who has been at the center of a controversy surrounding the abuse of college male athletes at the place he used to coach, or high school athletes at the place he used to coach. I mean, the Republican Party is littered with these characters who have all of these types of very troubling and disturbing allegations. It's no surprise to me that the Republican Party is safe right now, that they're not dumping Matt Gaetz, not taking him off the Judiciary Committee, because if they had to do that, they then would set the precedent that they would have to hold all these other people to, and they haven't done that the entire time.
Hey, let me just, regarding Jim Jordan, let me just clarify what I believe to be true is that he has said he had no knowledge of what was being alleged at that time. I don't know that he was involved personally. I don't know if that's part of the allegation. That's my understanding, so I just want to put that out there.
Have said that he knew. That's what I was referencing, just for clarification.
Okay, just want to be clear on that. Let's get to the new Vanity Fair article, everyone, that says Donald Trump's odds of staying out of prison are are rapidly dwindling, detailing the former president's escalating legal troubles just in the past couple of days. I mean, let's look at it, right? We have the Manhattan DA subpoenaing the personal bank records of the Trump Organization's chief financial officer. 2 Capitol police officers have sued Donald Trump for physical and emotional injuries they say they suffered in the January 6th riot. And the New York Times cleared the way for some reservists' defamation lawsuit against Trump to move forward. So that allows for lawyers to eventually question Trump under oath. Let's go on a scale of 1 to 10 with you, Adrian. How nervous should Donald Trump be about all these developments?
Can we include the number 20 in this scale? He should be extremely nervous, Alex, because look, one of the reasons why I think he was so disappointed in losing this election is because he knew that if he was in office for another term, another 4 years, he would essentially get immunity from any kind of prosecution. That time is running out. You've got the Southern District of New York. You've got multiple, you mentioned some of the Capitol police officers who are suing him. He's got a lot of legal troubles to deal with. And I think one of the reasons why he does have this political action committee, which, unfortunately a lot of people were suckered into giving money to. I mean, that's going to essentially be his legal defense fund. So if I were him, I'd be really nervous.
So Donald Trump gave a speech at a wedding at Mar-a-Lago. It was last weekend, I think. TMZ got the video of the speech. Let's all take a look at that.
The border's not good. The border is the worst anybody's ever seen it. And what you see now, multiply it times 10, Jim. What's happening to the kids? They're living in squalor. They said, get 66 million votes, sir, and the election's over. Well, I got 75 million. A lot of things happening right now. I just wanted to say it's an honor to be here.
Well, okay, so he did get around to that, but I don't know, was this a political event or was it somebody's wedding? And he took over the mic. Kurt, what's your reaction to what you heard there?
This is the sad fall of a man who is desperate for attention, desperate for the limelight, desperate to be on camera. So much so that he's literally crashing other people's weddings and hijacking the microphone to ramble on and say the things that he used to say at his famed rallies. It's sad, it's embarrassing that a former president of this country is literally now demoted to being a wedding crasher, apparently. It just goes to show that if you take away the attention, if you take away the life, if you take away the social media, life for the rest of us becomes a lot better, and it drives him absolutely crazy. Everything that he has ever done, everything that the way that he conducted himself was always designed to get attention and cameras and notoriety and fame, and taking that away from him is the greatest consequence that he could possibly face.
He has been at least teasing a potential presidential run in 2024, not making any promises, but listen to what he told his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, in an interview this week.
The other question people all want to know.
Hush up, child.
But do you have hope that there's a possibility to see you
Shut up.
run again in 2024?
You do have hope. That I can tell. You do have hope.
Elise, is this all about fundraising until the point that he has to say, guess what, folks, I'm not going to run when he's actually pressed to do so?
Donald Trump can be the master of the big T's when it comes to 2024. It really doesn't matter, though, for the party if he actually runs or doesn't run. At this point, his ideals are dominating the Republican Party. You look at how much the policy position of Republicans have shifted to adopt his America First.
That's one.
So whether he runs or not, I think at this point is almost irrelevant because it is so far ahead and so much ground is going to be tread for. But I do think that it is indisputable that he has changed the Republican Party and definitely.
Shut up. What you think I was doing? You tell me stop that.
All right, Elise Jordan, Kurt Bardell, and Adrian Alrod. You guys, thanks for joining me on the holiday weekend. I appreciate all of you a lot. Thank you. It looks like President Biden has a big sales job ahead. A new poll today shows 45% of Americans supporting his infrastructure bill, but where might he need his best sales pitch? We'll talk about that.
That's two. Shut up. What are you doing, you little...
Watch what they do, not what they say.
Yeah, smart move.
It's been a long time where it's been anything but normal. And now, there is hope. The COVID vaccines. But it's been a little confusing. I mean, really confusing.
So it's more important than ever to make a plan. Visit planyourvaccine.com
To find out when and where to get your
Need my hat, bitch.
roll up your sleeves and plan your vaccine so you'll be ready when it's your turn.
Police officers are our most expensive government workers. Derek Chauvin cost the city of Minneapolis $27 million for his decision to keep his knee on George Floyd's neck while George Floyd was saying, "I can't breathe." Police training is like pilot training. It has to be perfect or people will die.
The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell, weeknights at 10 on MSNBC.
100-year events are not 100-year events in the era of climate change. The extreme becomes more regular. Disaster, crisis, stalk us. But these are the things government is there for, to prepare for and plan for and protect against. Good governance ensures us against the worst risks and the worst catastrophes and designs resilient systems to allow us all to thrive through them.
Keep up with what matters. Keep up with Chris. All In with Chris Hayes. Weeknights at 8 on MSNBC.
Improving quality sleep is life-changing sleep.
It was a house party one moment, a scene of bloodshed the next. Gunfire erupted during a house party in Wilmington, North Carolina overnight. 7 people were shot, 3 of them were killed. So far, no arrests and no known motive. Let's go now to Washington, where Republicans are preparing to fight President Biden's new infrastructure plan. It's just one of the many roadblocks for the president. Let's go to NBC's Monica Alba, who's in Washington, of course, at her post for us. Monica, welcome. So this bill will likely need bipartisan support to pass. How does the president plan to get Republicans on board?
Yeah, bumpy road ahead for sure, Alex. Potholes abound because this is something that is a gigantic $2.25 trillion package that the president has put forward. But unlike the COVID relief bill, he has said he is open to a ton of changes to this and that he expects a lot of modifications, and he's going to be working with Republicans on that. But what he unveiled in Pittsburgh earlier this week includes more than $600 billion for transportation, things like repairing roads and bridges and highways, and then a lot of other things that the White House is basically categorizing as an investment in what they're saying is human infrastructure. So thinking about things in your own home and upping housing, trying to get more access to broadband internet. They really want to think of this as a multifaceted approach to things that have simply been broken in our country and haven't been able to be repaired by any administration. And that's why the president feels he's uniquely positioned to do so. But he also does want bipartisan support for this, unlike the American Rescue Plan. Here's how he positioned the framing yesterday about how he's trying to get GOP lawmakers to negotiate face-to-face. Take a listen.
When Congress comes back after this Easter break, I'm going to begin meeting with Democrats and Republicans about this plan. They all have their ideas about what it will take, what they like and what they don't like. Debate is welcome. Compromise is inevitable. Changes in my plan are certain. But inaction is not an option. So I think we're going to have I think the Republicans, voters, are going to have a lot to say about whether we get out of this thing.
So, Alex, you see the president there predicting things based off what he has seen within polling, which is that really voters of both parties strongly want to see something done on infrastructure. So he's betting that eventually constituents will respond at the ballot box if Republicans don't get on board with this infrastructure plan. But he has a really narrow runway. They're hoping to see if they can get something done by the 4th of July. There's not a lot of legislative time before then. That's why those meetings are going to start to take place as soon as the coming week, Alex.
Can you give me the quick 411 on where things stand on the HR1, the voting rights bill?
Sure, Alex. Well, because there has been such an emphasis on infrastructure and still what's happening with the COVID pandemic and everything else in terms of vaccinations, this White House has really said timing is everything. And even though they want to see that voting rights legislation get passed, they know this may not sadly be the moment for it. According to White House officials, they're trying to work on things on parallel tracks, but this is a president who has said, let me figure out the order, and what he wants to see next is infrastructure, Alex.
Okay, Monica Albert, thank you. We'll see you again. Waging battle against Georgia's new voting bill, will an economic boycott make a difference? I will ask Martin Luther King III in our next hour.
There's an everyday battle against life's daily stressors, like smartphones, sunlight, and screens. Just one occupied eye vitamin a day replenishes key nutrients that help protect the health of your eyes. Take Occupied. Take care of your eyes.
I've been telling everyone, the secret to great teeth is having healthy gums. New Crest Advanced Gum Restore detoxifies below the gum line and restores by helping heal gums in as little as 7 days. Crest, the #1 toothpaste brand in America.
Confidence from playing family game night? No. It's the confidence of finding a great deal with car gurus. That's smart. That's knowing only 30% of cars get top ratings. That voice, that's seeing the details that matter before contacting a dealer. That's the confidence of car gurus.
Have you ever heard of pickleball?
I love pickleball. You know, I'm not a big sugar guy, but for me, it's just oat milk.
You're kidding me right now. You know you're gonna have to dance.
I don't know about that.
Start something great. Match.
These are the people who work on the front lines. They need a network that's built right. That's why we created Horizon FrontLine, the advanced networking technology for first responders. Built on America's most reliable network. Built for real interoperability and built for 5G. It's America's #1 network in public safety. Horizon FrontLine, built right for first responders.
We still need to know what the plan is, and we intend to find out. Watch this space. Now, numbers have noted about returning to work. Due to the pandemic, New York City remains a relative ghost town. A recent survey shows only 10% of Manhattan office workers have returned to the workplace. The employer survey suggests 45% of the Manhattan office workforce may return by September. And as evidence that the pandemic has changed the workplace forever, Manhattan employers expect 56% of office employees will work from home at least part-time.
I mean, happy.
Yes. Yeah, I'm right there with you, because baseball's back, and those fans are pumped. But a new survey suggests COVID anxiety may still keep some fans home. 66% said they feel comfortable attending an outdoor event like a baseball game, but only a third of us say they feel comfortable attending an indoor event. Strong emotional testimony in the first week of the Derek Chauvin trial. In just a moment, I'll speak with one of George Floyd's cousins who was at the courthouse watching that trial.
We don't follow the herd. Never have, never will. Because those who build the future aren't found in a pack. They forge the way forward on a path of their own. And just when you think the dust has settled, we're here to kick it right back up again. The all-new, all-electric 2021 Mustang Mach-E is here.
Re-entering data that employees could enter themselves? That's why I get up in the morning.
I have a secret method for remembering all my HR passwords.
My boss doesn't remember approving my time off. Let's just find that email.
The old way of doing business slows everyone down. With Paycom, employees enter and manage their own HR data in one easy-to-use software. Visit Paycom.com for a free demo.
Hunger is here, and I needed it because my fridge is super empty. I'm gonna open the box.
The exciting part
everywhere and nowhere. See, we wouldn't have got Sean back if we hadn't been weaseling around down that way, though. Oh, yeah. We had Steve we stopped in dead town in the middle of nowhere. Don't even remember the name.
Your wireless, your rules, your savings. When you get Xfinity Mobile and Internet together, you could save up to $300 a year. So join the most reliable wireless network and get nationwide 5G included at no extra cost. Only with Xfinity Mobile. Click, call, or visit a store today to learn more.
Kevin Bacon here. You know me for 6 degrees of, well, hate. But it's time to expand. See, Visible is wireless with no surprise fees, legit unlimited data powered by Verizon for as little as $25 a month. But when you bring a friend every month, you get every month for $5. So I'm bringing everyone within 12 degrees of me. Damn. 12 months of $5 wireless. Visible, as little as $25 a month, or $5 a month when you bring a friend. Powered by Verizon. Wireless that gets better with friends.
In this family, everyone does their own laundry, but they all do it a little bit different.
Honestly, I add a couple Tide Pods and just stuff everything in. It works.
And of course, everyone thinks their way is right.
I stood in line for hours to get this. It has to be washed down delicate.
It has to be cold water. It's better for the planet.
Secret is, Tide Pods. It all works.
Of course it does.
Told ya.
They get to do it their way, and I get a break from the laundry. No matter how you wash, it's got to be Tide.
At Ring, we reinvented the doorbell. So no matter where you are, or what time of day, you can watch over your home and the things you care about.
Hello. Oh, hi. Package for John.
Thanks.
Hey, Mrs. Randall. Can you understand?
And it's so simple, you can install it yourself in minutes. See, you speak to whoever's there with the all-new Ring Video Doorbell Wire. Learn more at ring.com. Purchase today at mycarpet.com.
A very good day to all of you from MSNBC World Headquarters here in New York. Welcome to Alex Witt Reports. We're going to begin with the big headlines of the ongoing Derek Chauvin. Today's Twin City newspapers tell it all. The most senior police officer in the Minneapolis PD saying the use of force in this case was totally unnecessary and uncalled for. Let's go right now to a report from NBC's Megan Fitzgerald.
In a powerful and emotional week of testimony, a potential blow to the defense.
Have you ever, in all the years you've been working for the Minneapolis Police Department, been trained to kneel on the neck of someone who is handcuffed behind their back in a court position? No, I don't.
Prosecutors questioning Minneapolis Police Department's longest-serving member about the 9 minutes and 29 seconds Officer Derek Chauvin placed his knee on George Floyd's neck.
What is your view of that use of force during that time period?
The defense counters.
Generally speaking, in a fight for your life, you as an officer are allowed to use whatever force is reasonable and necessary, correct? Yes.
During a week of gripping testimony, young bystanders said they watched helplessly as Floyd pled for his life. Darnella Frazier was just 17.
It was enough. I stayed up apologizing and apologizing to George Floyd for not doing more.
George Floyd's girlfriend taking the witness stand, telling jurors they both suffered from opioid addiction, even admitting that Floyd overdosed in March of 2020.
It's a classic story of how many people get addicted to opioids.
The defense using that admission to try and prove their case that Floyd died from the drugs in his system, not the knee on his neck.
That was NBC's Megan Fitzgerald reporting there from Minneapolis. I want to bring in Tara Brown. Tara is George Floyd's first cousin and the director of the George Floyd Foundation. Tara, I'm awfully glad to have you back. So let's get into this because I know that you were at the courthouse for most of the week. What is your response to this remarkable and often so emotional testimony this week?
Something's nibbling.
Well, you're right. It was very emotional week, and
I realized that we did hear some very powerful testimony, and especially from Lieutenant Zimmerman, who pointed out that the use of force that Chauvin used was totally unnecessary. It was deadly force.
Yeah, you know, I want to play for everyone. We have that ready. Let's listen to Lieutenant Zimmerman talking exactly to your point. Here it is, everyone.
Pulling him down to the ground, face down, and putting a knee on the neck for that amount of time. It's just uncalled for. I saw no reason why the officers felt they were in danger, if that's what they felt.
It is extraordinary to have a police officer testifying against a police officer in any case.
Bad casting.
You heard that. How did you feel?
It confirmed for me what I've been saying since the beginning, what we've all already known. We know what we saw, and for me, it just confirmed what we've been saying and that everybody else saw what we saw. This was unnecessary force. It was unnecessary use of force against George, who was not resisting, wasn't a threat to anyone at any time.
Yeah, show this video right now of the police officer approaching him in his car with guns drawn. Let's get your reaction to some of the witnesses this week. As I said, it's been emotional. Let's take a listen.
It's been nice. I stayed up apologizing and apologizing to George Floyd for not doing more. I was sad and kind of mad.
I believe I witnessed a murder.
Totally distressed.
Are you frustrated?
Yes.
Stands up, takes
off his hat,
bows his head. Then sits down, takes his rod
I don't have
doesn't say a word. I'm a little surprised and say, Leslie,
Thank you.
that was nice of you.
Thank you.
That's not religious.
He shot. Oh yeah, he wrong as it.
You hear them expressing helplessness, guilt, regret around the death of your cousin, and I'm just going to tell you that I sat at home watching a lot of this trial and was reduced to tears a number of times. It was so difficult. If you could say something to any of these people, though, given their expressions of regret and remorse, what would you say?
My heart goes out to them. Many times while I was watching their testimonies, I was brought to tears. I mean, I can see the impact of having been there to witness what they had to witness was going to have a lifelong effect on most of them. And knowing the pain that I feel, I mean, my heart just breaks for them. But at the same time, I am so truly grateful that they're brave enough to step up and do what they do. Because had it not been for them, a lot of what we're seeing today we wouldn't be where we are.
Yeah. How do you think, Tara, the trial is going so far, and how do you think the country is interpreting everything as it's being watched by so many millions?
I think that, you know, so far, it's going the way that I would expect it to go. I'm really surprised, though, that we had the testimony from, like, for instance, the paramedics who confirmed that what they thought when they arrived on the scene is that George was already deceased. So there's some very powerful testimony that kind of confirms what we all believe that we saw. And I think the world saw the same thing. Hopefully, we're going to get the outcome that we're waiting for, that we're hoping for.
Well, we will continue to wait with you, Tara Brown, and watch very carefully how this goes. Thank you so much for talking with me. I can't imagine the week you've had, but I do appreciate you a lot. Thank you. Let's go back to NBC's Megan Fitzgerald, who's been covering this trial in Minneapolis. Megan, we played your report that summarized what had happened this past week in court, but let me ask you what lies ahead. For instance, do you know whom the prosecution will be calling this week?
Exactly, Alex. So yes, the prosecution will continue to call witnesses, and we know that among them will be the chief of police for the Minneapolis Police Department, as well as the chief medical examiner. This is the person that did the initial autopsy on George Floyd. And so we know that this is also likely to be another very emotional week, as this chief medical examiner will go through his findings. And you know, I want to go back to something, because in that exchange that you had just moments ago, talking about the trauma and the regret and just the emotion, it's certainly worth noting that in the middle of last week, in the morning, just as court was starting, one of the jurors had to wave her hand to get the attention of the court. She needed a break. What we later found out was that she was having what they're calling a stress-related reaction. This juror even said that she was losing sleep. She was having trouble sleeping. So certainly a glimpse into how these jurors may be processing and dealing with this trial out.
Yeah, you make a really good point. Okay, Michelle, thank you for that. Let's go from there now to breaking news in Washington, everyone. New questions this weekend over security at the Capitol following another deadly attack. Let's go to my colleague Vaughn Hilliard, who's joining us from Capitol Hill. Vaughn, how does this incident factor into the overall discussion of security there at the Capitol?
It's clear after the attack yesterday, Alex, that the Capitol building here is still a target. And the matter is, what sort of measures are taken here to fortify the Capitol building, not necessarily in terms of fencing, but in terms of security.
And knocked up, son.
Members of Congress and staff and the Capitol Police Force feel like this is protected grounds based off available intelligence and having the research.
Now you got the clap, huh? Did I?
Nancy Pelosi, to conduct a review, has called for more than 850 personnel to be hired for the Capitol Police Force here. And that is where this conversation is going with lawmakers. I'm going to let you listen to part of your own conversation from just this last hour with Congressman Moulton, because I think it was a good conversation that reflected on where these lawmakers see this balance in terms of having a secure area with a fortified barriers, yet at the same time wanting to ensure that this is still an open grounds here at the heart of American democracy. Take a listen.
We can get to a point where the Capitol can be safe and the fence is not required. But we often guarded targets against much greater threats in Iraq with less physical protection. But that's because we are active duty United States Marines. We've got to get the Capitol Police the training and resources to get to that place. And yes, eventually the fence will come down, but let's not politicize it in the meantime.
Alex, there was a $2 billion supplemental funding bill that Congress and lawmakers, including Congressman Moulton, are discussing at this very moment here. We should note yesterday's attack. Again, there's a lot of questions that are outstanding as to what exactly led this individual, identified the suspect as Noah Green, what led him here to the Capitol. He apparently lived a good amount of time in Virginia as well as Indiana. But there are still questions as the FBI and Metropolitan Police Department here in Washington, D.C. continue their investigation.
Yep.
Alex?
I know you'll bring us the answers as they come. Thank you so much, Vaughn Hilliard. Let's get out of some breaking news in the coronavirus pandemic. We've learned just within this past week, a record 4 million doses were administered yesterday. That's according to the White House. It is the first time 4 million shots have been given in a single day. That's another first. An average of 3 million doses were given out each day over the past week. In total, 101 million Americans have at least one dose of a COVID vaccine. That is great news there, but let's go down to the alarming numbers.
Lies, bitch. Lies. Lying, bitch.
Only 11 states are maintaining a plateau in new cases. The biggest surge coming in Michigan, with cases there spiking 114% over the last 14 days. The TSA says yesterday was the busiest travel day since March of last year. More than 1.5 million people passed through U.S. airports on Friday. At least 1 million flyers traveled every day for the past 23 days. And new CDC guidance is putting cruise ships closer to setting sail from U.S. ports. The plan lays out new testing and case reporting protocols and it clears ships to begin trial voyages. It is unclear, though, when passengers can officially return on board. The CDC also giving the green light to fully vaccinated Americans who want to begin traveling again, saying their risk is low. Let's go right now to NBC's Scott Cohen, who's outside of San Francisco International Airport for us. So, Scott, I bet you've been talking with folks. What's been the reaction from travelers?
Well, you know, Alex, it's not as if they were waiting for this CDC guidance. Here at SFO, where traffic had been down about 80% from pre-pandemic levels, we've seen a few resurgences in traffic here. People are getting back. And as you mentioned, the TSA is saying nationwide, we're definitely seeing travelers come back in a big way. Take a look. They say more than 1.5 million people were screened at TSA checkpoints just yesterday. That is the highest level since March 12th, which is just before the shutdowns began. So they're advising people to get to the airport early. It's almost back as it was in the before times. Here's the new CDC guidance. This is for fully vaccinated travelers. That means if you are 2 weeks after getting your second Pfizer shot or your single J&J dose, no test anymore needed for domestic travel unless local rules require it. You should still get tested 3 to 5 days after international travel as they continue to monitor the variants. No longer any quarantine needed, again, unless the local regulations require it. Continue to wear a mask, wash your hands, and social distance. For everyone else who is not fully vaccinated, they still are discouraging non-essential travel. They still want you to get tested within 72 hours before your trip, 5 days after your trip, and self-quarantine at least 7 to 10 days after you get back, and continue wearing your mask and social distancing and the like. There is still a mandate in airports and on planes to wear your mask, and travelers taking off for this holiday weekend say they're fine with that.
It's a good safety measure, but I think that as more and more people are vaccinated, it's going to become less important, and the concern I have is what you cut it off. When you decide that it's no longer necessary afterwards, those safety measures. That's what we're also keeping that on.
She ain't scared. That's my girl. That's Sadie, bitch.
Definitely a lot of that going on again in this holiday weekend, and it really does seem to point the way toward a post-pandemic travel boom. But remember, Alex, we are not post-pandemic yet.
We sure aren't, but let me tell you, just go online and check travel prices right now for airline tickets this summer.
Come on, Sadie.
All right, thank you very much, Scott. There are some new claims in connection to the allegations against Congressman Matt Gaetz. There are some bombshell new details. The writers who broke the story joins me next.
Time to get in some trouble, Sadie.
This is the sound of greatness.
Niche.
No shortcuts, no magic stars. Being great means being bad for a while. Soon, maybe something else. Speaking a new language. Rosetta Stone. Our language is learning.
So, Aiden got this new debit card from Greenlight. It's a kid's debit card. You can start to learn how to use money, how to spend money, and also how to save money. And the kids can download the app, you can download the app. I think you're really going to like this.
I have a confession. When I shop for new products, I am intimidated. I want to clean and
keeping it cute, keeping it casual. You can do that and be confident.
I love the idea of this. It's so simple.
If you're shopping for a compact SUV, you're probably considering the usual suspects. But now is the time to consider a Volkswagen Tiguan. Because the Tiguan has a lower maintenance cost than Subaru, Honda, and Toyota. Which is surprising if you don't drive one, but not at all. Now's a smart time to get into a Volkswagen SUV at our Sign Then Drive event. Leasing your Tiguan for 0 down, 0 deposit, 0% payment, and 0 direct timing, or with 0% APR financing for 72 months. If you're shopping for a compact SUV, you're probably considering the usual suspects. But now's the time to consider a Volkswagen Tiguan. Because the Tiguan has a lower maintenance cost than Subaru, Honda, and Toyota. Which is surprising if you don't drive one, but not at all if you do.
Now's a smart time to get into a Volkswagen SUV at our Sign Then Drive event. Lease an Tiguan for 0 down, 0 deposit, 0% payment, and 0 real time, or get 0% APR financing for 72 months.
Want to know an easy way you can stock up on grocery items you won't find anywhere else while supporting a great cause? It's called Imperfect Foods, the grocery delivery service on a mission to build a better, kinder food system.
Not idiots.
Groceries and exclusive items that went from unwanted to wished for. With scheduled delivery once a week, filling up your pantry has never been easier or more responsible.
Get all your snacks, like tortilla chips, snack mix, chocolate pretzel pieces, and more. Get 20% off your first order with code PERFECT at imperfectfoods.com/TV.
This new year, shine a light on the world of money with Greenlight, the debit card for kids. They'll learn to earn, save, and invest. Join more than 2 million parents and kids at greenlightcard.com.
If you're shopping for a compact SUV, you're probably considering the usual suspects. But now's the time to consider a Volkswagen Tiguan.
Good God.
Has a lower maintenance cost than Subaru, Honda, and Toyota. Which is surprising if you don't drive one, but not at all if you do. Now's a smart time to get into a Volkswagen SUV at our Sign Then Drive event. Leasing a Tiguan for 0 down, 0 deposit, 0% payment, and 0 real time, or get 0% APR financing for 72 months.
When it's cold and miserable outside, the warmth and coziness of a fireplace inside will welcome you home. Family owned and operated, Park & Home offers many wonderful fireplaces. From direct vent, electric, wood, gas logs, and accessories that will add efficiency and enjoyment to your home. Before you know it, your friends and family will gather around the hearth of your home.
Nice thread, Sadie.
Home in Mount Prospect or online at hearthandhomeusa.com.
Here, take that for yourself.
New reaction on Capitol Hill as Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz resists calls to resign amid a reported sex trafficking probe. The New York Times reports the DOJ is investigating whether Gaetz and a Florida politician recruited women for sex in exchange for cash. The Times cites interviews of people close to the investigation, text messages, and receipts, though NBC News has not viewed those text messages nor receipts. Additionally, the Justice Department is looking into allegations that Gaetz had a sexual relationship with a minor and paid for her to travel with him. But MSNBC's Amanda Golden, who's on Capitol Hill at the very latest on this, curious about any response from lawmakers. Have you heard some?
Well, Alex, a bit of a mixed reaction here on Capitol Hill, but I will point out it's been noticeably quiet from Republicans here, from congressional lawmakers who are...
Sadie about to kill niggas.
Sexual misconduct situation where he was accused, as vehemently denied, of ignoring a doctor.
Yeah, stupid Micah.
When he was previously arrested.
Micah.
These figures that are coming to his defense, notably not party leadership. And so there's a very strong statement of denial that's coming out from Congressman Gaetz to all of these allegations as he investigates. His most recent statement from his office, I'm going to read you part of it. It says, quote, Matt Gaetz has never paid for sex. Matt Gaetz refutes all the disgusting allegations completely. Matt Gaetz has never, ever been on any such websites whatsoever. Matt Gaetz cherishes the relationships in his past and looks forward to marrying the love of his life. And Alex, I should note, with this history around Gaetz of some of his previous incendiary comments and behaviors, this is coming when there's also not that
Say you're gonna pop you.
party leadership. And my colleague, Leanne Caldwell, actually caught up with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy earlier this week to get his reaction to the ongoing investigation.
Sadie.
If a member of my conference gets indicted, they'll get removed from the committee. He says this is not true, and we have a newspaper report that says something else.
Yeah, they were. Sadie was right.
I didn't know about it. I guess I'm surprised about it. And that's when I get to the bottom of it. I haven't been able to speak to Mr. Gaetz, but I will.
So you mentioned McCarthy there, if these claims are founded that he would be removed from committees. That's something that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has also said on. If if the claims are found to be correct, that he should be removed from Judiciary Committee where he currently sits. The one other added component to all of this, Alex, is that just in the last few days,
Why out of
that Congress
fucking ammo, bro?
after an individual named Luke Ball actually resigned his position, and then according to an individual who's familiar said that the reason for his resignation was over principles. So as all of this is unfolding and ongoing, we'll be following it closely and bringing you the latest.
And I appreciate that. There's a lot to follow on this one. Thank you, Amanda Golden, for that. Well, joining me right now is one of the journalists who broke this story, Michael Schmidt, Washington correspondent for the New York Times. Mike, welcome back to the show. Take us into the details of what exactly you know about the scope of this investigation.
Well, I think to understand this investigation, you have to sort of understand where it started and where it may have come from. And that is that the federal authorities for many months, if not more than a year, have been looking at a local tax collector in Florida, in Seminole County, Florida, which is northeast of Orlando. And this tax collector, Joel Greenberg, has been indicted on an array of corruption charges, all sorts of things that he was doing as this elected tax collector. Joel Greenberg was, basically trying to take money, trying to create fake IDs in his position, just a range of different sort of run-of-the-mill corruption. But it's in the course of this investigation into Greenberg in which the authorities have come to understand that Greenberg was soliciting women from websites, that in which women were being paid for sex, and he was doing this with Gates. He was bringing women in, and the women were being paid by him and Gates and having sex with them. And that is sort of at the center of the investigation. To sort of better understand the legal implications and significant problems here for Gates and Greenberg is that the authorities are looking at their ties to a 17-year-old girl. And, if the government is able to prove that you had a relationship with someone under the age of 18 who you were paying for sex, it comes with a mandatory minimum of 10 years in prison for that person. Obviously, a huge sentence. And to give us a sense of what the government has on this issue, Greenberg himself has already been indicted for sex trafficking of a minor, of the 17-year-old girl. The authorities are looking at Gates' relationship with the same girl, whether Gates broke the same law with that girl. So that is the extent of the investigation here, and obviously a 10-year mandatory minimum is a significant legal problem, and it remains to be seen what the government will do with Gates on this issue.
Yeah, also I was just saying that is huge. I want to make the point that Greenberg has declared his innocence. He's pled not guilty for this indictment. But let's talk about some details from your reporting, because you said that the Times have viewed text messages as well as payment receipts from Cash App and Apple Pay. I want to make a note that NBC News has not verified any of these, but what details did those messages
robbery
show?
It showed how these two men were frequently paying women for sex. It shows how they were doing it so openly through cash applications that not only can easily be traced if the authorities get a subpoena from the cash app applications, or if they get their phones, or if screenshots are taken on the other side. Whenever someone sends you money, it pops up on your screen and you can take a screenshot of it. So there's a significantly easy way to capture that. And sort of at the heart of this investigation is the leverage that the government has on Greenberg.
Robin Homestead's buffoon, baby.
The government has indicted him on nearly 3 dozen charges, ranging from the sex trafficking to the corruption. He currently sits in jail because he has violated his parole. So the government, really focusing in on him and developing a significant amount of leverage on him.
Do we know if Mr. Greenberg, do we have a that he has spoken with investigators about, or through his attorneys? I mean, do we know if he is implicated Matt Gaetz in any of this, or if there's silence relative to that?
No, we know that this week the federal authorities indicted Greenberg again on some other corruption charges, trying to steal COVID money, doing some shady dealings with crypto.
Come on.
He's hired Fritz Schauer.
Hate walking through. There we go.
Comment about this publicly. He's declined to talk about what is going on with his client. Obviously, a lot of accusations being thrown around about him, but the client currently sits in jail. He's in his early 30s. He thought he was an up-and-coming Florida Republican politician, and now finds himself in the midst of a federal investigation that has a significant tentacle that reaches out to the House of
Case at this point, indication about potential charges being filed against the congressman, or even arresting him at any point in the near future?
We know that Gaetz is under investigation. We know that he's being looked at for his ties to the 17-year-old girl. And we know, and this is particularly important, in the judicial law enforcement atmosphere that we're coming out of in the Trump administration, which still sort of hangs over Washington, we know that this investigation started under Attorney General William Barr. And that Barr allowed this investigation to move forward. Now, in most justices or most presidencies, that would not be that significant if a member of the same party was investigated. But obviously, with Donald Trump, there were enormous questions throughout his presidency, whether he was meddling in the Justice Department's work, whether justice was something that was blind to follow the facts, or whether justice was something that Donald Trump wanted. There were certainly many curious examples of that happened under Bill Barr, particularly with those closest to the president. Matt Gaetz was certainly one of Trump's closest allies, if not one of his greatest allies, on Capitol Hill. Donald Trump's most outlandish claims about a range of things and supporting the president no matter what. Remember, it was Matt Gaetz who went out to campaign against Representative Cheney after she voted to impeach Donald Trump. So, Gaetz being one of the most loyal things. Now, this is an investigation that started under Barr, still going today, and will be in the lap of Merrick Garland at some point here.
Yeah, and we should note that Donald Trump has remained 100% silent on this thus far. Mike Schmidt, awfully glad to have you weigh in on all this. Thank you for the reporting and for coming and talking to me about it. Thank you. Baseball calls out Georgia for moving the All-Star game from Atlanta to change the minds of Republican state lawmakers. I'm going to speak with Martin Luther King III coming up next.
And yes to Allegra, the #1 allergist-recommended non-drowsy brand. Allegra works 2 times faster than Claritin, and unlike that, it's non-drowsy. Say yes to Allegra. And for congestion relief, find Allegra D behind the pharmacy counter.
It's so busted, you can't use this part of the screen. Definitely cracks every phone I've owned.
You broke your phone, so Verizon broke yours. For the first time ever, new and current customers can trade in their old and damaged phones for up to $1,000 off our best 5G phones.
My phone is old, very old.
Old, cracked, water damaged, doesn't matter.
I'm ready for something new.
Now, trade up to the 5G network you deserve with the 5G phone you want. Because at Verizon, the network is just the beginner.
Use a single HR software? Nope. We use 11. 11.
Why do an expense report from your phone when you can do it from a machine that jams?
I just emailed my wife's social security number to the entire company instead of HR. Please come back.
How hard is your business software working for you? With Paycom, employees enter and manage their own HR data in one easy-to-use software. Visit paycom.com for a free demo.
Time. First off, we love each other.
Dignity. This thing you can neither see nor measure, but that demands the return of small moments illness attempts to steal. Dignity demands a rapid COVID test. Because we all need an answer to move forward. Dignity demands your heart stays connected to the center. So you know it's beating as it should. It demands a better understanding of your glucose levels so you can enjoy moving. And knowing your baby is getting the nutrition he needs wants, no matter how you choose to feed him. Dignity is not effortless nor easy. At Abbott, we fight for it every day, developing life-changing technology. Because dignity...
No wonder it was shooting horribly. Good God. Sorry, buddy.
My sub would have dumped all over your sub. Excuse me? My sub has bacon.
Choose better, be better, and now save. Order in the app. Subway, eat.
The day after chemo might mean a trip back to the doctor's office, just for a shot. But why go back there when you can stay home? With Neulasta Onpro, strong chemo can put you at risk of serious infection. In a key study, Neulasta reduced the risk of infection from 17% to 1%, a 94% decrease. Neulasta Onpro is designed to deliver Neulasta the day after chemo and is used by most patients today.
Neulasta is for certain cancer patients receiving strong chemotherapy. Do not take Neulasta if you're allergic to it, or new to it. The rest. An incomplete dose could increase infection risk. Ruptured spleen, sometimes fatal, as well as serious lung problems, allergic reactions, kidney injuries, and capillary leak syndrome have occurred. Report abdominal or shoulder pain, trouble breathing, or allergic reactions to your doctor right away. In patients with sickle cell disorders, serious, sometimes fatal crises can occur. The most common side effect is bone and muscle.
If you'd rather be home, ask your doctor about Neulasta Onpro. Pay no more than $5 per dose with copay card.
They're first. First to respond. First to put others' lives before their own. And in an emergency, they need a network that puts them first, that connects them to technology, to each other, and to other agencies. That's why AT&T built FirstNet with and for first responders. The Emergency Response Network authorized by Congress. FirstNet, because putting them first is our job.
This breaking news, Governor Brian Kemp is slamming Major League Baseball for pulling the All-Star game out of Georgia. It's for the NBC's Deepa Shivram, who's in Atlanta following this story for us. Deepa, what did you hear from the governor in the last hour?
Hey, Alex, we heard Georgia Governor Brian Kemp here essentially doubling down on this piece of legislation that he signed into law just a little over a week ago at this point that puts a lot of these restrictive voting measures in place. It limits the number of ballot boxes available in the state, decreasing the amount of time that folks can access their absentee ballots and request those ballots. But what you heard from Governor Kemp in that presser is that this Republican talking point that they're trying to argue that this bill actually expands voting rights and protects voting rights. It's something that he repeated again and again and said that this move by Major League Baseball to move the All-Star game out of the Atlanta area in reaction to this bill, he says is them basically, just curving to the radical left, to leaders like Stacey Abrams and President Joe Biden. Take a listen to what he said earlier this afternoon.
Today, Major League Baseball caved to fear and lies from liberal activists. They ignored the facts of our new election integrity law, and they ignored the consequences of their decision on our local community. Georgians and all Americans should know what this decision means. It means cancel culture and partisan activists are coming for your business. They're coming for your game or event in your hometown.
So you hear there, Alex, that term cancel culture coming back again from these Republican leaders, saying that a lot of these, radical left people are trying to take away things like sports. He made a little bit of a joke later in that presser saying, what are they going to do if the Atlanta Braves make it into the playoffs, right? Are they going to cancel the playoffs too? Like, how are they going to move forward here? And folks seem to be in that room resonating with him. A lot of folks who support this bill signed on to that bill that was then, passed just last week, like I said. But you
hear this very stark contrast, Alex, between what Democrats are saying, talking about how restrictive this bill can be specifically for voters of color, for poor communities, what that does to their access to the ballot box, compared to what these Republicans are saying, pushing those points, trying to make the argument that this somehow expands voting rights.
Well, to the point that I think there are voters there in the state of Georgia who are thinking, hey, cancel culture on my ability to vote properly. So there's that. Deepa, thank you so much. Joining me right now, Martin Luther King III, civil rights advocate and, of course, son of Martin Luther King Jr. Awfully good to see you again. So glad for you to join me here on a holiday weekend. Pretty strong language we heard from Georgia's governor. What's your view on MLB pulling the All-Star game from Atlanta?
Well, I think that is the kind of thing that we could expect to see when you actually create legislation that restricts or reduces
turn around,
potential for people to vote. That's
move.
This, you know,
good God,
also
move.
Issues with the election on January 5th.
Why won't you turn around? Oh my gosh.
Took place. But all of a sudden you have to put the restrictions in place that limit the ability for people to vote. And then you
come on.
People happen to
really, I gotta go all the way around because you wouldn't turn around.
That's illegal. There's something draconian.
This game should not be glitching right now.
You're seeing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that agree with that. And that would include 2 black executives who called on companies to directly oppose the new Georgia laws. So companies like American Airlines, Delta Airlines, Coca-Cola, they all put out statements against voting restrictions. And it happened for the very first time, I might add. Do you think that public pressure played a role here? And how much does it help after the law has passed?
Well, what I do not know or feel is that the governor, clearly he is putting more, you know, basically putting his foot down even more and more. So not yielding to pressure. But ultimately, if economics come into play and more companies decide to pull out of Georgia and maybe we're going to come here, decide they're not going to relocate here to create jobs, then the governor and the legislature has to rethink its position. I don't say we're at that point now.
Wow, that's far as heck.
National Baseball League pulling out for the All-Star game is one step. I think certainly with corporate leaders and former corporate leaders like Kenneth Chenault speaking out, I think that's positive. This is the kind of pressure that elected officials need to
oh, good God.
But again, you should be restricting. You should be expanding, in my judgment. Yeah. And it's sad. Again, he said there were no issues, and others said there were no issues. So why then are you changing the rules?
Well, I guess it's a rhetorical question at this point. But to your point about the economic downfall of all of this, if more companies choose to relocate or pull out somewhat from Georgia, I mean, that would be on Ryan Kemp and the legislature, right? I mean, there are those Stacey Abrams who said, okay, guys, let's not act too rashly and too quickly.
Pretty much.
Economically hurt this state. But the reality is that if it happens, who would be to blame for it? Would it be the Democrats? Would it be the corporations that have said we can't stand for this? Or would it be those who put these laws into place in the first place?
Well, I believe it's those who put the laws in place in the first place. The legislature, the Republican-led legislature. And not corporations. Not corporations respond to the public. Generally, elected officials do. But obviously, the narrative is this is a radical, left-wing ploy. To keep people from voting and reduce, that's a ploy, that's radical. No, my father...
Come on!
Is the 53rd anniversary of his death. He would have been 92 years old.
Stupid, y'all got robbed, bro.
Along with so many others, Charlie Chanery and Goodman, and along with Jimmy Lee Jackson and Valerie Luizzo.
Red Dead.
We know along with Jose Williams. And they were beaten.
$38, not bad.
We should be in a different
fucking
place. We shouldn't be having this discussion, but it's sad that we have to. We're going to continue to be vigilant, though.
Yeah, it is a very somber day, and I'm glad you brought that up, the 53rd anniversary of your father's tragic death. And I want to also add that Bernice, your sister, has joined voices with Stacey Abrams in kind of trying to quell all the immediate reaction to things. But If you are bringing up your sister, what goes through your mind on a day like tomorrow? I mean, it can't be easy, ever, even if it's 53 years later.
No, it's never easy, but what I try to focus on is, yes, there's so much more work to be done, but there are a lot of young people that are engaged. That's what inspires me, and I think my father would be so grateful to see young activists who are demonstrating. Tragically, we're in the midst of the trial of George Floyd, and yet George Floyd was the catalyst that caused all these demonstrations to occur. I'd say 89% of those were nonviolent protests. But the young people is what we're excited about, to see them engaging. This means that no matter what legislatures do, ultimately they're going to have to deal with these young people who ultimately will become voters.
And you know who comes to mind right now is the Georgia State Representative, yes, an elected official, but clearly an activist as well. We're looking at Park Cannon there, who spoke out for the first time this week since being arrested for just knocking on the door as Governor Kemp was signing that law. Let's take a listen to what she said.
Signing into law the most comprehensive voter suppression bill in the country is a far more serious crime.
Look, she is now facing criminal charges. Some have compared her case right now to the Capitol rioters. What do you make of how she's being treated?
No, it is not, it makes no sense. It's irrational. She is the secretary of the Democratic caucus. She has been in the governor's office for numerous signings. So for this one, where she was going to be able to report back to the caucus, she gets arrested? Really? Something is wrong with the concept of democracy when it comes to something like this happening. You know, I think
zebra.
many others are going to come forward and not going to accept this kind of insane treatment.
Well, Martin Luther King III, I'm going to mercifully liberate you right now from our conversation because you were so busy today. Here's a reminder for all of you out there who are watching as I thank you. You're going to be on Politics Nation with Reverend Al Sharpton as well. Park Cannon as well. It's a big show today. Politics Nation at 5 p.m. Eastern here on MSNBC. Martin Luther King III, very glad to see you. One state is leading the nation in new COVID cases, the infection rate and the positivity rate. So what's now being done about it? We're going to take you there.
Luxurious designer pan free from Gotham Steel. That's right, free. Tired of your pan that scratches and sticks? It's so old and worn you're afraid to cook in it. Well, it's time to upgrade.
Introducing the Hammer Collection from Gotham Steel, one of America's best-selling cookware brands. Hi, Chef Daniel Green here with my new copper-style designer pan that's guaranteed to beautify your kitchen like never before.
Gosh, what I love most about this design is this hammered copper look. It would just look so fantastic in your kitchen.
Wow, this is a beautiful pan. It looks great. Look at those eggs dancing around in there. I tell you, I'm sold. Where do I get these? I love them.
I don't want just a frying pan. I want the whole set.
Eggs stick to other pans, but with mine they slide right out. And look, it still has the super durable ultra non-stick surface. Plus the new Cool Touch solid cast handle makes it safe and easy to cook even the hottest dishes. It's oven safe up to 500 degrees, so bake this beautiful chicken pot pie and serve it straight from the pan. Or warm apple pie, just like Grandma used to make. Any recipe looks great in this pan, and then it wipes clean with ease. Plus, metal won't scratch it, so beat fluffy egg whites right in the pan for a gourmet souffle that slips right out in a pan that looks just like you. My wife will go crazy.
Poor donkey.
I can't believe how beautiful this pan is.
Similar hammered pans sell for almost $100, but today it's an incredibly low $19.99, and we'll even ship it to you free. It's dishwasher safe and PFOA free. But wait, go right now and you can get a matching single-serve egg pan absolutely free. It's perfect for making personalized eggs and delicious breakfast sandwiches in a flash. So upgrade your cookware today and get it all out free shipping. Call or click now.
Order, call 1-800-683-9148.
So damn! Come on, man!
1-800-683-9148. Call now.
not a zebra, it's a horse, a donkey.
US may be at the beginning of a fourth COVID wave as infections rise across this country.
Sorry, buddy.
The worst state right now is Michigan. It has the highest number of new cases,
A mule.
the highest infection rate, and the highest positivity rate. Unfortunately, we're going to have to go right there to Michigan right now, Royal Oak, in fact, to MSNBC's Corey Kopp. And I'm so glad you are bundled up and also masked up, given what I just said about Michigan. What are officials saying about what's left, Corey, and what are they doing about it?
Yeah, Alex, I mean, it's actually breaking all of the records for COVID right now. It is not looking good. And the doctors that I spoke with out here say that they do believe there are several factors.
Wow, what's the pollen count?
Hospital that we're at, just
My nose smells.
400% increase in cases, people coming in. They've had to switch over their beds to COVID beds once again. And they said that this is reflective of the state as well. When you see how vertical that spike is in the state, doctors are concerned because the spike is going to be...
Again? Come on, donkey man.
A record
Mule. Sorry, buddy.
They hadn't hit that number.
You're not my horse.
Now, one of the doctors that I spoke with out here, he leads the COVID intensive unit here at this hospital. He thinks, in addition to there being several factors, one of the big ones that they're looking at is the UK variant and how fast it spreads. Listen to him explain.
About 40% of those patients right now are coming back positive for the B117 variant. So that's definitely playing a role because we know that one's more contagious. So that could certainly be causing a spike in the cases that we see. It's kind of a race against the clock in a way because we still have all those population measures in place. We still have masks. We still have distancing. We still have limited capacity in bars and restaurants. So I think the best thing to do is to get those shots out because I think that's probably our off-ramp from this cycle of lockdowns and surges.
All right, Alex, you heard a little bit about him talking about the state's vaccine policies and their strategy here, which I'm going to get into. But first, I want to get into something he mentioned.
Dang, you ain't gonna go faster?
Even though that is happening in most of the state, if we pull up a heat map of the state, you can see the thumb region is in the purple. That is where the worst cases are. And that's actually where doctors say there tends to be less masking, less social distancing. These communities are more averse to following those orders. And they do believe that's also one of the reasons for the spike in cases right now. Add on to the fact that the TSA just recorded a record number when it comes to travelers and those spring breakers on Friday, Alex. And you're seeing these record breakers in Michigan. Now, the state's main goal here is to vaccinate as many people as quickly as possible. We'll be getting into more on the state strategy in just a little bit. We'll bring you that.
Okay, Corey Coffin, thank you so much from Royal Oak. Well, the experiment in Baltimore that has led to a historic drop in crime and how it's changed.
Thank goodness.
We'll talk about it.
Being creative in a new language means being pretty bad for a while. And soon, you'll be something else.
Yeah.
Rosetta Stone, how languages learn.
Hunger is here, and I needed it because my fridge is super empty. I'm going to open the box.
I knew something happened. Stupid game.